Over the last few months, I've been thinking a lot about efficiency. How can I live my life? How can I go through my 24 hours as efficiently as possible and effectively do two things? Number one, remove all the unproductive things out of my life. So removing everything that is wasting my time and moving me further away from my overall goal. And number two, all the tasks that I do carry out that are worthwhile and do help me towards my overall goal, how can I carry out those tasks in a more efficient way? So this video is going to go through all the time-saving hacks and productivity hacks that I implement into my life to make the most out of my 24 hours. And just before I start, the Transform Your Grades in 30 Days course is now live. So if you're tired of getting the same grades for every exam, maybe you've been getting the same grades that you've been getting for years, and you're ready to invest in yourself and finally commit to permanently leveling up your studying, then check the description where there's a link to the new course that I've just launched. But don't procrastinate. Right now there's a 50% promotional discount offer for the next few days, and then the price will be increasing. So please don't miss out. Link in the description, check it out. And now back to how I make my days super productive. And at the end of the video, I do talk about hustle culture and burning out, and it's so important that you keep your health in check. I talk more about this idea of hustle culture at the end of the video, so do stick around until the end. Use time-saving apps. I've almost entirely stopped reading books, almost. To read a non-fiction book, it takes about 8 hours to read, but realistically, in each book, even a really good book, there's usually only 3 or 4 main key points in the whole book. And I mean things that you remember and stick with you even weeks or months after reading it. So what if there was an app that consolidated the non-fiction books into short summaries and that basically spoon-fed you all the main key points from the book in just say 10 or 15 minutes? So essentially you've gone from learning something that would normally have taken you 8 hours that will now take you 15 minutes. Well, now there is an app that does just that. Blinkist is an app that allows you to understand the key insights from the world's best non-fiction books in just 15 minutes or less. The book summary can be read to you in the form of an audiobook, or you can read it like a traditional book. So I've been using Blinkist for maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 months now, and I use it almost every single day. When I shower, it takes me about 15 minutes, and so I have a Blinkist audiobook playing on my phone speakers in the background. And there's a link in the description if you want to check it out, because the app is perfect for essentially commuting to school or commuting to university or commuting to work. Most of us listen to music or browse social media on our phones, or maybe we're driving or staring blankly out of the window on a train. And when I had to commute to university, it would take me about 40 minutes of driving. So 40 minutes of driving to university in the morning and 40 minutes of driving home in the afternoon. So that's 1 hour 20 minutes of commuting every single day. So I'd fill this time with audiobooks or podcasts. And I was studying economics and finance at university, so it would quite often be an audiobook or podcast on the topic of economics. That way I was still learning things for my course even when I was commuting. And that's 1 hour 20 minutes of extra learning a day. That's not an insignificant amount of time. If I carry that out over 5 days a week, over a month, that's 24 hours a month extra of learning. And the vast majority of people would be listening to music, or like I said, be scrolling through their social media. This is something that I've only just started doing relatively recently, maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks, but I'm realizing how powerful and how effective it is, even though it's so basic and takes like not even 5 minutes each night. So on a night time, I'd write down 3 or 4 things that I need to do the next day. I wouldn't write everything I need to do, but just the main tasks, the most important tasks. So for example, on my phone right now, the tasks for tomorrow are to film 2 videos, make 2 thumbnails, make the B-roll, write an email, and test the landing page on mobile version. So that's 5 things that I need to do tomorrow above everything else. And I need to make those 5 things a priority. And with this system, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you know exactly what you need to do. You don't need to waste time thinking about it. And as an added bonus, it's satisfying to be able to check off each task as you complete them throughout the day. Read the news. Every single morning for at least, I would say 6 or 7, maybe 8 years, the first thing I would do after my alarm goes off in the morning is open the BBC News app on my phone and be updated with what's going on around the world. Now, this is slightly controversial. There's a lot of negativity and adversity in the news, and I'm a bit of an advocate of removing as much negativity and as much cynicism and adversity out of your life as you can. But the trade-off in reading the news is, just for 10 minutes in the morning, is that it keeps you up to date with current affairs. You keep up with what's going on around the world, and really it gives you a more perspective in that there's more going on around the world than what you're seeing in your own life. And it was particularly beneficial for me as someone who studied for an economics degree, because it provides news about a country's economic situations, the trade wars going on around the world, and a lot of the theory that I was learning at university, I could apply them in real life and almost see things play out with real countries and real economies. Be mindful of hustle culture. I've been thinking about this more and more recently, this idea of hustle culture, where essentially we devote as much of the day as possible to working. And we live that life every single day, where there's no time out, you're always working, whether it's at university or at home or at the library or at a coffee shop, wherever you are, you're working. And I'll be honest with you, I have hustle culture completely ingrained into my everyday life. I can work 15-hour days relatively easily, and honestly, I see that as a good thing for me personally. For me, it's definitely not for everyone, and I'll explain why a bit later. I love my work, I love what I do, I love the positive impact that I'm having at scale, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I get as much enjoyment from working as I do from hanging out with friends or going to a bar for a drink. However, there are 2 important things I have to keep in mind. Number 1 is that I have to be really mindful not to burn out. So when it's 7 or 8 at night and I still have a lot to do, but I'm feeling exhausted, I'm feeling tired, I have to make a conscious decision to stop what I'm doing and just chill out. It's absolutely imperative to know when to rest and when to call it a night with work and just relax for the rest of the night, because in the long term, it will do you a lot of good. My mental and physical health is prioritized above everything else, and so should yours be. And number 2, the hustle culture is not for everyone. Maybe you prioritize other things over productivity, like having a more balanced lifestyle and socializing a bit more and exercising a bit more and just relaxing a bit more. And sometimes that's the right way to go. You only live once, you're only young once, so please make sure that you have at least some kind of social life. Human beings are sociable creatures. After all, we've evolved over millions of years to be that way. So try not to be so productive that you're ignoring other elements of your life that you might regret as you get older. But at the time that you're doing what I would call pointless things, like browsing Instagram, Facebook, watching cat videos on YouTube, if you eliminate all of those distractions, you'll realize that you have so much more free time during the day, and then you should fill that time with tasks that are going to bring you closer to your main goals. And if you're still struggling to do that, if you're still struggling with procrastination and distractions like social media, then check out the Transform Your Grades in 30 Days course. This course is designed specifically for you to trigger a massive change in your attitude to studying and help and support you in taking massive action to level up your grades. The link is in the description. Please don't procrastinate in enrolling in the course, as the 50% promotional discount will only be available for the next few days. So click on the link in the description, and I look forward to working with you very shortly.